The sound arrived before the day really began, a sharp bell cutting through the cold morning air, summoning children from chatter and movement into neat lines and lowered voices. Shoes freshly polished, coats buttoned tight, we crossed the playground knowing that once the doors opened, something changed. Outside was freedom, noise, possibility. Inside was order. The classroom door closed with a final click that felt heavier than it should have, like a gate swinging shut. Back then, an ordinary school day carried a weight we rarely questioned. You sat straighter, spoke less, watched more. Even your breathing seemed to adjust. Today, schools are brighter, looser, full of color and conversation. But in the 1950s, that bell marked a moment of surrender, when childhood paused and rules took over. It's hard to imagine now just how different that simple sound once made everything feel. For many, that memory still lingers today. To understand those rigid classrooms, you have to step back into the mood of post-war Britain. The country was rebuilding itself brick by brick, family by family, with little money and even less patience for disorder. Schools were crowded, supplies were basic, and one teacher often faced dozens of children at once. In that world, calm wasn't optional. It was survival. Discipline promised structure in uncertain times, a way to keep things moving forward. Many parents welcomed it. They had lived through shortages and worry, and they believed firmness was a gift. A strict classroom, they felt, would prepare children for a demanding adult life. Comfort could wait, character could not. Authority was rarely questioned, because questioning felt risky when stability was precious. Teachers stood as figures of certainty, trusted to mold behavior as much as knowledge. Today, classrooms encourage discussion. Back then, the priority was obedience and resilience, learned quietly and without debate. Looking back, it can seem harsh, even startling, yet within its time, it made sense. The schoolroom reflected a nation steadying itself after upheaval, teaching children to endure, to listen, and to fall into line. And once order was established, daily classroom life followed rules that left little room for anything else. This thinking shaped lessons, routines, and expectations, creating a shared understanding that schools were not places of comfort, but training grounds for life, where conformity mattered individuality, weighted, and authority guided every moment of childhood in post-war Britain itself then. Most people have forgotten just how quiet schools were. Silence wasn't just expected, it was trained into you from the moment you took your seat. Back straight, hands folded, eyes fixed forward, you learned quickly how to disappear into neat rows. Speaking without permission was unthinkable. Even turning to glance at a classmate could draw attention you didn't want. Rules governed every movement, every sound, every second. A dropped pencil or whispered word could become a moment of public notice, the kind that made your ears burn and your stomach tighten. Lessons weren't designed to invite curiosity, but to maintain order. You absorbed information, repeated it faithfully, and waited. Today's classrooms buzz with questions, group work, and encouragement to speak up. Back then, standing out felt dangerous. Blending in was safety. Children learned to measure themselves constantly, weighing every action against the rules. That quiet pressure shaped behavior as much as lessons did. It created classrooms where silence ruled, and where many learned that obedience mattered more than wondering why. Ask almost anyone who grew up then, and they won't describe details so much as feelings. A tightening in the chest, the long wait while a name was read aloud. Discipline rarely needed drama to make its mark. Being separated from the class, set apart in silence, or given lines to copy again and again carried a weight all its own. Sometimes it was simply standing while everyone else sat, aware of every eye. Those moments stretched time, turning minutes into something heavier. What stayed wasn't the task itself, but the sense of exposure, of being judged. At home that evening, the feeling often lingered, replayed in quiet bedrooms long after lessons were finished. Today, schools talk about support, understanding, and second chances. In the 1950s, discipline was meant to correct by memory. The idea was simple: make the lesson unforgettable. And for many, it was. Those experiences settled deep, shaping how authority felt for decades. Long after the classroom desks were left behind forever, in ways rarely spoken about, this wasn't just education, it was training. Every school day moved with mechanical precision. Lines formed before lessons, names were called from registers, and progress was quietly ranked and noted. Time itself felt controlled, broken into strict blocks by bells and clocks. There was little space for drifting thoughts or personal rhythms. You learned when to sit, when to stand, when to speak, and when to remain silent. Individuality didn't vanish suddenly. It faded gently, replaced by routine. Learning was serious business, treated almost like work rather than discovery. Joy existed, but it was rationed, saved for playtime or the walk home. Inside the classroom, expressions were measured and emotions kept in check. Today, schools celebrate creativity and difference, encouraging children to be themselves. Back then, fitting in mattered more. The system rewarded those who adapted quickly and quietly. For many pupils, school felt less like a place of growth and more like preparation, shaping habits and behavior. What did all of this leave behind? Long after the desks were cleared and uniforms folded away, the habits remained. Many carried a quiet resilience into adulthood, an ability to endure, to follow rules, to keep going without complaint. For some, that structure became strength, helping them navigate work, family, and responsibility with steadiness. But for others, the silence followed them. Speaking up felt risky. Authority felt heavy. Confidence came slowly, if at all. These experiences shaped how a whole generation saw themselves. You can see it in the way many parents later raised their own children. Softer in places where they once felt hardness, more willing to listen where they were once told to be quiet. Today, we talk openly about feelings, encouragement, and emotional safety. In the 1950s, emotions were private matters, tucked away neatly. Much like exercise books at the end of the day, neither approach is simple or perfect. But looking back, it's clear those classrooms left more than memories. They left imprints, shaping voices, silences, and strengths that still echo through families, conversations, and choices, even now. As we compare then and today, and feel how the past still quietly informs who we are today, would we accept it now? Walk into a modern British classroom and you hear conversation, questions, laughter. Children are encouraged to explain themselves, to be heard, to feel safe. Set that beside the silent rooms of the 1950s, and the difference is startling. We've gained openness, empathy, and voice, but perhaps lost some of the certainty that once defined school life. Progress rarely travels in straight lines. What matters is remembering where we came from. Those old classrooms no longer exist, yet their echoes remain, shaping attitudes and memories. Times change, methods change, but the bell still rings quietly today.